For those of you who may be just joining us, I want to make sure that they understand that we're having a really important and amazing conversation with Nick and Latrice Posey, and we're talking a lot. We're having real deep, real conversation here about fertility, about marriage, about difficulty, about access and exposure to good medical health care, about the importance of exercising and leaning into your options from a medical perspective. So thank you so much for sharing. And so surrogacy, we said surrogacy is the way we're going to go. Mm-hmm. And tell me, what does that bill look like?
Enormous. I honestly can't even remember, because the bills kept changing, because we were reaching out like, okay, can insurance cover this, or can her insurance cover that, and then there's so many legalities where it's just like, okay, well, we're in the state of Michigan, technically whoever births the child, regardless of the biology, the genetic makeup, whoever pushes the baby out is the biological mother. So then my argument was, well, if she's the biological mother, then her insurance should, be able to cover her being pregnant with her child. So it was a lot of figuring things out, and a lot of emotion. We had conversations heart to heart. Like one time I remember talking to my doctor, and I'm on the phone and I'm just hysterical. I'm hysterical. And he's like, come in the office right now. And he's just like, calm down, I'm going to help you. And he was able to work some things out. I mean, he was truly a blessing, because it's not easy and it's extremely expensive. And
it's a partnership process. It sounds like it's so important to be partnered with the right medical professional that's going to have your back through this. I want to just kind of take this back for a second and rewind this a little bit. Mm-hmm. You said something that is so huge. You said, surrogacy, and it's not just in the States, because I've got business partners that are in Canada that has confirmed that it's the same way there. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure it's this way many places. But you said, look, surrogacy in the States says that whoever pushes the baby out is the maternal mother. Like, that's the mother of the child, which then implies that person has all rights to the baby when the baby is born. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. So that just opens up another can of worms as far as surrogacy and the fees. So we had to go through litigation. Like, we had to go to court with our surrogate, although she knew, very well, like, she didn't have any intentions on keeping the child. But it's like, almost like you're suing this person ahead of time, just so that...
Almost like a prenup.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Almost, right?
So we had to go to court to say that she's waiving all rights. Almost like we're adopting our own child.
Before she even...
Well, she was pregnant at the time, but before she had the baby, so that when the baby was born, we could sign the birth certificate. And even then, honestly, I don't know exactly how much weight that holds. Like, it was just like, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to pay all this money for this legal stuff.
So you sell real estate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Latrice has an amazingly successful real estate business, and it's kind of like when we have our clients sign agreements in the real estate industry. I'm a real estate coach, and when we have our clients sign an agreement, it's more of a mindset thing. It's like, look, we're bound together. We're going to be together until we successfully sell this house, or until you buy a house. We're bound together. But the reality is that contract, whenever they decide to walk away, they really can't walk. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So this is like that a little bit.
Yes. So she could, I'm glad she didn't, or she wasn't thinking about it. But really, even if at that moment she had decided, it was absolutely in her favor. Like, she could have just said, you know what? I'm connected. Sorry, love you, but So
who was your surrogate?
You want to go ahead with that?
So my surrogate is my cousin / god sister / little sister. So she grew up with me. We have always been close, and it's crazy because I watched her grow up as a baby. Like, I remember her being a baby and sitting next to her in her car seat, and then to think, fast forward all these years later. my little sister carried my kid. You know, like it's
So make sure, I was going to say, make sure, when they were talking about the legalities and everything, make sure you have the right person.
Yes.
Make sure you have the right person, because there were other candidates, and you know, this was the perfect candidate for what we wanted to do.
Yeah. And she volunteered, like, even when we first started going through trying to conceive, she would always say, hey sis, like, if you ever need me, you know, I'm here. Like, and people say that, but it's another thing to actually go through it, because the shots are intense. I mean, the appointments, the sacrifice, the selflessness, like it's insane. Like we're forever indebted to her. Like it's like, how do you thank somebody for doing that?
I know, right? I know. So I think that the message here to everyone who's watching and listening that may be having an experience of difficulty if they decide to go surrogacy is, please make sure that you are extremely comfortable and confident with your surrogate and the human being that they are, right? Please look into your legal options that are precursors to the baby being born, so that there is a mindset that's approached between the surrogate and you guys, right? The parents, as it relates to what's going to happen after, right? Yeah. What is the fee typically for surrogates? Like, okay, so they're charging for this, right?
So in the state of Michigan, it's illegal to get paid as a surrogate.
Oh.
So whoever is going to be your surrogate, if you're in Michigan,
they're just gifting it to you.
They're just gifting it to you. They're gifting themselves. The only thing that you can pay for is like their medical expenses, but it's against the law to pay a surrogate. And I guess for whatever reason they say it just has to do with making sure that they're doing it for ethical reasons. Whereas like in maybe California or I don't know, different places, surrogates can get paid as much as $60,000, you know, or $30,000, or different agencies charge different fees. But in Michigan, you can't get paid.
Okay, good to know. I think that as we wrap this conversation, because I think I could sit here and talk to you about this all day, and I think it's because, you know, I'm a very curious person. I want to learn, I want to know, and I believe that everything that we go through, we're supposed to grow through, and we're supposed to take it and pack it up and give it to somebody else as a gift to help them through the situation and through the scenario. So I want to thank you all for starting this conversation that I think should just be ongoing. I want to encourage that anyone who's been listening, that they reach out to Nick and Latrice and start a conversation about options, right? And about transparency in your challenges, because that's the only way that we get to move through things. But before we do that, I want to talk for a second, just one quick second, because I think we're wrapping on time here. I want to talk about COVID. Because a lot of this, I mean, how much of this was happening for you during COVID?
Majority of it.
As soon as it kicked off.
Yeah.
COVID kicked off, our process began, I believe, with everything.
So I got COVID in March of 2020, and I was still testing positive for COVID 45 days later. So I couldn't start anything until I got a negative test from COVID. Yeah. So we were right in the middle of it the entire time. Wow. It was stressful because he couldn't come inside, you know, so I'm going through a lot of it by myself. Whereas other people, they're like, oh yeah, your mate's going to be with you. You're going to have the support.
I had to sit in the parking lot while she dealt with a lot of this stuff. I had to drive there, give her a talk, send her up, and sit outside, sleep in the car, wait hours on end until she's coming out, or I get a phone call that says she's on her way out.
I remember one time in particular, my surrogate passed out at work, and she was rushed to the ER, and I immediately was there. I couldn't come inside.
You couldn't go inside.
I couldn't go inside, and I'm like, well, she's pregnant with my child, and they're like, she'll be fine. Call her cell. Like it was just
so
crazy.
A circumstance that should be difficult anyway. It's not an easy circumstance that you're working through, right? It takes a lot of flexibility and a mindset of abundance as opposed to lack. But then you throw COVID in here and throw in a lack of accessibility and togetherness, so you couldn't even be with your surrogate the way you wanted to half of the time when they were experiencing things and going through things, and you couldn't even be with one another the way that you needed to. So I want to say that I think that there's so much more in your future. I think there needs to be clinics from Nick and Latrice. I think there needs to be books from Nick and Latrice. I think that there needs to be considerable information that comes out and goes into the community about how to build a marriage that's strong enough to sustain challenge, and then also how to move through any circumstance, no matter what, in order to produce a baby that is as beautiful as Ashton. And today, Ashton is how old?
5 months.
On the 16th, it'll be 5 months.
Yes. So, just so you know, you shouldn't worry about anybody taking Ashton except for me and Tina.
He's definitely a fan favorite.
And I just want you to know that we have lived in the bleachers with you through this situation. I'm blessed enough to have Latrice as part of my organization with eXp Realty, and I can remember before you and I even met, Latrice coming in and not talking a lot about things, but having small conversations about some of the things that she was going through and some of the challenges that she was experiencing. But I can remember the want for the baby, and I remember the want for the baby, and I remember that consistent conversation. So even though I feel like I've been in this with you.
You have.
I've been in this with you. I didn't know all the detail that you shared today, but I have been in this with you from the beginning. So when I look at the baby now and I just look at the two of you together, it just fills me with joy, and I'm not going to cry. You're going to cry. But
I see the waterworks. They don't start because they're not starting.
But I want the both of you to know I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Sherry.
I'm so proud of you, and I want these two amazing human beings to be an example for what's available and what's accessible to all of us, to our culture, and how we need to demonstrate and show up for one another and show up as intelligent human beings that understand that there's a medical reason behind everything that's happening. God is amazing, but God's not going to save you from something that you don't interrogate with honesty. So look for all of the options so that you can find out what's real and what's righteous in order to be as healthy and happy and available for everything that's possible for you. Latrice, where can everybody find you?
Everybody can find me on all social media at ICalledLP. ICALLED LP. That's on Instagram, TikTok. I'm on Facebook as Latrice Posey.
And Nick, you do music.
Yeah, I do music.
Yes, you are a music guy. Yeah, oh please stop it. And so, if someone wanted to look a little bit more into who you are professionally and just might want to connect with you, because there's a lot of guys out here that's hearing this and they're like, man, I would love to have a conversation with this dude about this challenge because I think I might be facing this. Where can they find you?
It's InPose. That's N_POSE. On all platforms. If you type that in, anything that you're using, I'll be available there. Inbox is always open. I always answer, no matter what time it is. If I'm awake and I see it, I'll always answer. I can refer you to her. I've referred many who've reached out to me to her different posts she's made on her Instagram and things like that, all during the journey of what we were going through. So if you want a more intricate look at it, you can go and reach out, and I have no problem giving you that information.
Perfect. My name is Sherry Swift, and I am so blessed to be connected to human beings just like this every day, and I am honored to have this conversation with you. Thank you for asking me to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
And I am so grateful for the opportunity to have the conversation and to talk about beyond the most difficult and no matter what. And as a result of that conversation, I just want to take a couple of seconds and introduce Mr. Give us his name, Latrice.
Ashton Posey.
Mr. Ashton Posey. So Ashton Posey is the beautiful young one that is the result of all of the amazing efforts that Nicholas and Latrice were committed to, no matter what, beyond the odds, welcoming beautiful Mr. Ashton into the world. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, no matter what, right?
Thank you so much for tuning in and watching the story of our little miracle, Ashton. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me at iCalledLP or Real Talk Real Estate with Latrice Posey. Thanks so much.